I showed you around here earlier on with this project I'm doing, this 1952
Power Wagon.
Dodge Power Wagon. It was, speaking of the military, the history behind it was the truck for the Second World War. And at that point, probably half of the GIs came from the farm. America was an agrarian economy to a much larger extent than we are right now. Mm-hmm. And they thought, man, these trucks are amazing. And they said to Dodge, man, I'd love to have these on my farm. And Dodge said, really? You think there's a market for this truck on farms? They said, oh yeah. So they kept them going and they just dominated the market. They're more tractors than they are actual trucks, top speed of like 47 miles an hour or something like that. But I just love the look of it. And I knew that when the Jeep was done, this was my next project. So I got this Jeep. I bought this truck. It was in Indiana, picked it up, brought it here. It's been sitting here for a year. And then I pulled it out and I started actually working on it. And I was going to start working on it. And then you sent a very discouraging text. Tell us what that discouraging text was, Petey, and why you said it.
The discouraging text was no. That's it. You sent me a note and you said, hey, I'm working on the Power Wagon. Can you come and help me? And I said, no. And you quickly responded back, why? And I said, finish the Jeep. And then the phone rang and he's like, hey, are you funning with me? And I said, no, I'm not funning with you. I'm serious. Finish the Jeep.
Welcome to the Aggressive Life. We are on location today, one of my favorite places in the world. We're at what I refer to as the Barndo. It is a structure that's on our camp property. We bought this property and it came with some structures on it, which I wasn't interested in at all. We just wanted the property because it was right beside where we do man camp, couples camp, woman camp, all those different camps. And we needed more space and flat space and the ability to put in a huge, massive body of water. So we bought this thing and it came with these structures that we really weren't interested in at all. And then I realized once we had bought it and owned it for several months, I came out and I thought, interesting. I could, if I come hunting out here, instead of driving all the way back home, I could actually just stay here and Lib could stay here. And then I could do an evening hunt and a morning hunt and all that stuff. And then we thought, interesting. This huge barn is unused, this garage space. And I've got this project. And actually, my 1952 Power Wagon happens to be stored up in a tobacco barn on this land. I could just put it over here. And whenever I want to chink away with it. So I decided to do that. And then I was talking with my friend Peter Standhart, who I also know as Petey, which my other friend Peter Zimmer, he's got two nicknames. His name is Petey and Easy Peasy. So I'm kind of two-timing on the nicknames here because if I like you and we're close, you get a nickname. So this Petey, I got to know him through, how did we get to know each other?
I think through your Jeep, 1978 CJ7.
Yeah.
Right? Did I get that right? 78?
Yeah, well, I had a guy in my men's group, Marte, and he went out and started another men's group. You were in that men's group.
Yes.
And
he said you were going to renovate a Jeep, restore a Jeep, and I said, give him some bags and a marker and tell him to tag everything.
Yeah, explain that to the average
person.
So
bag and tag is you just take every single piece you take off. You think, I'll remember where that goes. And then the next thing you know, you're like, I wonder what this is. And so everything you take off, you put it in a little bag and you write, auxiliary pump bolts and winch bolts and power steering nut and bolt. There should be two, maybe draw a little picture. And then I guess you reached out to me and you were like, can you come over and look at this Jeep? You were struggling with something.
Yes, right. So that's what happened. I thought, interesting. I'd not heard of bag and tag. And we started it, and I don't remember where I got caught up in the Jeep. It was pretty straightforward initially, which was just
it was the frame.
Oh, because it was rotted out.
It was the frame.
Right.
And so you called me and then Drew.
Yep.
And then you were like, let's look at this frame and tell me what you think. And we said, we'd get a new frame. And you were like, we're not doing that. Tell me what you think. And then we were like, oh, no, I'd get a new frame. And you're like, okay, so tell me what you think. So you just keep asking. You're like, maybe we fix this one. You're like, that's a great idea. That's what we'll do. We'll fix this one. So we fixed the frame. We took it to Drew's shop, put it on the chiropractor, did that whole thing, stretched it and bent it and heated it. And then we took it to my shop and we painted it. You remember that?
I do. I 100% remember that. And I look back on that now. I was kind of a jerk on the whole frame because for some reason, I was just wedded to that specific frame and was just mind blown that now you don't buy a new car frame.
Was it because it was OEM or?
It was
the original. That was what it was born with?
Yes, that's what it was born with. But I was new to the game. That's why we became friends. I was very, very new to that game. So just a mental block of, no, you don't buy a new frame.
We use this frame.
Right. It was real. And you guys were right. I wish I would have listened because
Do you wish you had?
Well, I got a better frame on it because Drew Boo rebuilt it better than the original.
Yes.
He really did. Thicker metal on stuff.
Dude's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah, I put you guys through some work and paces you didn't need to go through had I just found a new one in order.
But that's how we started.
Yeah,
that's how we started, and then I started coming up there regular. And then you went through a season, and then you were into the body and the wheels, and you had your wheels powder coated, looked great. Did the interior? I'll call it Rhino line or whatever, that black
Raptor liner. Yep,
Raptor liner. And then we got into the paint. Then you were into the paint, and you were like, I'm going to paint this myself. And we went down the whole Smythe and 2-part.
Well,
and
you encouraged me to paint it myself.
Yeah, you can, and you did a great job, right?
Yeah. So Petey has been my a mentor for me on many things on this Jeep, and we've got a friendship out of that. It's been really good. So really, thank you. I want to do car talk. We're going to do car talk in a moment because there's some spiritual lessons that have come out of cars, and you gave me another one here recently. But first, let's go back into who Petey is. Welcome to the Aggressive Life Peters Standhart. I always do that. I forgot to do that for you.
Okay.
You've got quite an interesting background.
Okay.
You were an Army infantry officer.
Yes.
A chopper pilot. Mm-hmm. Chopper pilot in the Army.
Yes, sir.
I hear that learning how to fly a chopper is really freaky and hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So the land that we have out here, like this area, when you start flying, they very quickly teach you. First thing is how to hover, and so to hover this helicopter, they probably give you like a 2 or 3 acre piece of land to try to hover this thing, and you need all of it. And 2, 3, 4 days later, you can hold it into a spot, and then a year later you can hover it with your index finger, and I could hover it over a beer bottle.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of choppers were they?
Huey. It's a UH-1. It's
Chopper.
Chopper.
Okay.
Chopper is on Amazon. That's something you buy. It cuts up your vegetables. Helicopter. Chopper is so it's a UH-1. It's a Huey. It's the troop carrier from the Vietnam era.
All right.
So it's like a 10,000 pound, like 11 guys, 2 pilots. And so I was in flight school, and they're like, no smoking, this, that, the other thing, the Army, all the rules and everything. And then I said, excuse me, why is there an ashtray in front of each pilot's seat? And they were like, don't be a smart ass. Right? Because all those guys in Vietnam were smoking while they were flying, right? Right.
Yeah, got it.
Have a cigarette, fly this thing around.
They don't do that anymore, though.
No. But the ashtrays are still there.
So you're saying that's why we didn't do well in Vietnam. Guys were smoking and flying at the same time. That was the key issue.
That was a tricky business, man. That was the Vietnam War, and being a chopper pilot, flying low and fast, dangerous. It's a dangerous game. I think the longevity of a pilot in that era was probably a year.
Really?
Maybe a year and a half. Yeah, it's tricky business.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, flying low. They're trying to take you out of the sky. You're landing in LZ landing zones. It's hot, gunfire. It's tricky business.
When did you know you wanted to be a chopper pilot?
I was in the infantry. I've always had a desire to serve. I've always had a servant's heart. Always loved serving my country. Always been a patriot, flag waver, etc. And I was in the Army. I'm adopted. My dad was in the Army. I always wanted his admiration. I joined the Army, ROTC, got commissioned out of college as a second lieutenant, went into the infantry, was stationed in Europe, and we were flying on some Black Hawks. And I saw these guys flying in these Black Hawks, which is a bad boy helicopter. That's 3,000 shaft horsepower, twin turbines. It's a bad boy. And these guys are like, get out. And they opened the doors. I was in North Germany, and my rucksack disappeared in the snow. So me and my guys, with the platoon leader at the time, we put our rucksacks on. I saw my rucksack disappear, and these guys flew away. And I was like, I need to be flying that instead of carrying a machine gun, walking around in 1.5 feet of snow,
right.
Freezing my ass off. And so that was like the moment. And I was like, I want to be a pilot. And so I branch transferred from the infantry to aviation, which was a long and tedious and tricky process. There's only 2 or 3% of the people that apply get into flight school. It's very difficult. Difficult to get in, difficult to complete.
And why did you make the cut? What did you have that they said, oh, we should let this guy in?
It's the grace of God.
Huh.
I've asked myself that many times because I struggled through some of it, some check rides and some academic stuff and weather, aerodynamics, some physics. It's tough, man. But here's the thing. I never gave up. I never gave up, right? You got to finish what you started. And I was like, you guys can kick me out of here. I am not quitting, right? So just to back up to the story, when I was an infantry officer, I was at Fort Benning, which is in Georgia, and we would do training, and we would get hot and sweaty, right? They're just trying to test your mental fortitude, right? And you are hot, you're dripping sweat from your neck, your chin, your nose, and your forehead, doing in the push-up position in a sandbox, which they call the beach, right? And then they're like, down. They're like, roll left, right? You roll left, roll right, roll right. So you become a sugar cookie, right? And then they're like, get up, get down, get up, get up, right? This whole thing, push-ups. They're like, okay, everybody's in the push-up position now. And they're like, I need 5 people to quit. 5 people to quit, we'll be done. You're like, your arms are shaking, you're in the push-up position, you're hot, you're sweaty, and then they take great delight in they're like, tonight you can be in a hot shower with mama, you can have some lasagna, you can have a glass of cold beer. Dude, all you got to do is stand up right now.
5 people out of how many?
Maybe 100.
Wow.
And and your arms are shaking, and you're like, here's the thing. I was like, Petey ain't quitting. Gives me the chills to tell you the story, but you look left, and you're like the big dude, like the big guy, real muscular and buff, like you. He stands up. I'm like, dude, John just quit. Then you hear another guy in the back. He's like, forget this, man. I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. They get him. But see, what they're doing is they're going after your mental fortitude. They're going after your physical fortitude. And either you have it, or if you don't have it, you're willing to develop it, or you don't have it. And the people that don't have it, they got to go.
Yeah.
So my boss, I'm sort of jumping around, but my boss said to me, he goes, here's the thing. If you say you're going to do something for me, whatever, change the wheel on that Jeep or whatever, and you don't do it, you and I are done. I was like, why? And he said, at that point, I don't know whether you will ever be reliable for me. And if we are, when the bullets start flying, if we're in that situation, I'm like, Peter, Lieutenant Standhart, I don't know if I can trust him. So when you say it, you got to do it. Always.
Yeah.
And so jumping into the aviation. So I got out of the infantry, went into aviation. And we would have a pickup, and what every ground guy wants, which is what I was, an infantry officer, what every ground guy wants is to hear those helicopters coming in to pick them up, right? That is the sound of freedom.
Yeah.
Come and get me, right? Come and get me. I mean, it gives me the chills. So here's the thing. When those guys are ready to be picked up, you're going to be at a certain location at a certain time, which has all been sort of arranged, right? You got to be there. It's not like, well, we got there 1:30, 2:15, we were late. It's not like that. If we said we were taking off at 6 a.m., at 6 a.m., we were pulling the helicopters into the air. That was the way it was, man. And so I've grown up with that. And my dad was like that too, my adopted father, right? A great man.
You were adopted at what age?
I was adopted at 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you do remember life before he came in?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. But he was a great example of finishing. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to look at today. Finishing. That was the main thing that I wanted to hit here. The idea of finishing what you started and doing what you said you were going to do.
Yes.
Eliminating the saying-doing gap. I showed you around here earlier on with this project I'm doing, this 1952
Power Wagon.
Dodge Power Wagon. It was, speaking of the military, the history behind it was the truck for the Second World War. And at that point, probably half of the GIs came from the farm. America was an agrarian economy to a much larger extent than we are right now. And they thought, man, these trucks are amazing. And they said to Dodge, man, I'd love to have these on my farm. And Dodge said, really? You think there's a market for this truck on farms? They said, oh yeah. So they kept them going and they just dominated the market. They're more tractors than they are actual trucks, top speed of like 47 miles an hour or something like that. But I just love the look of it. And I knew that when the Jeep was done, this was my next project. So I got this Jeep. I bought this truck. It was in Indiana. Before that, it lived its whole life in Nevada.
Okay.
Which
is actually great because that's that dry rust. That's not like Vermont rust.
Right.
That's that hot, dry rust, which you can save, which is what you're doing.
Right. Well, we looked at the cab over here earlier. There's no holes underneath it.
Yeah.
There's holes from bolts, but for 1952 to be no holes, there's no Barndo on it, no putty, no nothing is really crazy.
Yeah.
So this guy had this truck in Indiana because the previous owner, he didn't like how the engine was working. He pulled the engine out, got it rebuilt, and then he died, and it just sat there in Nevada for a while. And then his wife apparently sold it to this guy in Indiana. His back went bad on him. It was sitting in Indiana for years.
Right.
We found it, went out, picked it up, brought it here. It's been sitting here for a year. And then I pulled it out and I started actually working on it. And I was going to start working on it. And then you sent a very discouraging text. Tell us what that discouraging text was, Petey, and why you said it.
The discouraging text was no. That's it. You sent me a note and you said, "Hey, I'm working on the Power Wagon. Can you come and help me?" And I said, "No." And you quickly responded back, "Why?" And I said, "Finish the Jeep." And then the phone rang and he's like, "Hey, are you funning with me?" And I said, "No, I'm not funning with you. I'm serious. Finish the Jeep." Where are you on the Jeep? What percentage finished are you on that?
I'm done, except
it's done?
Yeah, it's done. Been done. That's why we had it's done. You know,
okay, good.
The problem is that
I haven't gone for a ride in it, so in my mind, it's not done.
That's because shit's breaking on it once it's done. Like, my fuel pump just went out on it. My fuel pump went out. Like, it's a brand new fuel pump. So now I was underneath the Jeep yesterday trying to put the new fuel pump in, and the one I got doesn't fit. Like, it's a weird. No, it's done. It's done.
Okay, good. I want to go for a ride now. Get a root beer float.
Yeah.
So no, my thought was, you were a little down. We skipped a little bit of the chapter about the engine. So, you did the frame.
We're talking the Jeep now.
Yeah, your Jeep. You did the frame, you did the engine, you were into the wiring, and then the engine, you were in, it was sexy, it was beautiful, it was painted, didn't run.
Right.
Then you brought it to Crossroads Oakley and you had it on stage and you started it 3 successful times and you were like, I'm good. And then it just was giving. So you were a little shop worn. You were a little weary. You were a little frustrated. And I was like, you got to take the engine out.
Right.
Right. And you were like, I don't want to take the engine out.
You and Tom was like, yeah, I got an engine.
Got to get it out. Gosh. And you were just not down with that, man. And you were a little weary, man. You were a little sad. You were like, I cannot believe that I've gone this far and I'm going to take this engine out again. And I think you ended up,
taking an engine out is horrible.
Did you take it out twice or did you take it out?
I took it out the first time to get it milled out, and then I rebuilt it myself and then put it in.
Yes.
And then I take it out the second time to send it back to the guy to relook at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically 2 times.
Two times.
Took it out. And
took it out and installed it twice.
But that second time, you were not up for that because you have to take the hood off, the radiator, blah, blah, blah. You got to take it all.
Everything. Yes. It's
got
hard
to all come back out.
It's hard to take out an engine.
It's hard.
Very difficult.
Yes. Yeah, it's very difficult. So you were a little weary, man, and you were a little sad, and you were just like, I do not want to do this. And I think you took a little hiatus from it, right?
I definitely did.
Didn't you just like, I just need a mental pause from this whole thing. It's like weary.
Right.
And so I saw that in you, and I didn't want to see you start something new that would continue to tax you while you've got something that's sort of in the back of your mind undone.
At that point, the new engine was in and it was running well. When we had that conversation.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was in and done. When I say done, I had
drivable.
Yeah, it was right. But your point was still very, very fair. There's a couple little niggly things. I'm trying to think what the niggly things were on the thing.
There was like some speedometer issues or some wiring issues and the roll bar and the way it bolted in and just like
there was some niggly things, right? So you said don't start it until you finish the Jeep, which I know is smart,
right?
Which is why I didn't start the Power. I owned it for a year before I started it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I did start it up here because it was a different location and all that stuff. But let's go back to the spiritual principle of finishing what you started is the main thing I want people to get at today.
Yes.
I think this is deep, deep water for people.
Deep.
So tell us from an auto perspective, why is this important?
I feel like we are surrounded by people that say they're going to do something and they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just said to me, I'll call you. They didn't call me. Somebody said, I'll bring that over. They didn't bring it over. I mean,
right.
It's I don't know. It's terrible, right?
Yep.
And what I sort of have developed this philosophy, yes comes with hooks. If I say I'm going to meet you, that means I have to also get up. That means I have to get dressed. I have to drive. I have to come out here. I have to be prepared to talk. Yes comes with hooks, right? And so be careful with your yes. And don't say things that you can't finish.
Yeah, Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no.
I love that.
This, I swear to God, I promise. We should be people that we don't have to say those sort of things.
Right.
It's just when we say, yeah, I'll do it. It's like, done. I don't have to go into some vow.
Right.
Done.
And right now, we all have promises that we've made. Small things like, I'll be home by 2. I'll see you tonight at 6. And we haven't done it. We said somebody, I'll send you a text or some money or whatever, a note. And we haven't done it. If you want to improve your self-esteem, which I think is a problem among many men, the self-loathing, etc., shame, do what you said you were going to do.
Right.
Just follow up.
Right. It's those little small habits, those little small yeses that lead to little small dones.
I mean, don't you know somebody who says, let's get together, but you never get together?
Yeah.
Don't you know somebody that says, I'll come over, but they don't come over?
Oh, I told them, hey, we should get together. I go, yeah, right. Are you calling me or am I calling you? They go, I'll call you, okay? No, never call me. See you again next time, bump into the same place. Hey, you call me? I'm calling you. Okay, great.
Right. And so from where I come from, sort of what I would call the military and then the corporate world, and now I own my own business, but from those those sort of origins, the military and the corporate world, that just doesn't fly.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you cannot be successful with that.
Right.
You can't be successful with that. And a lot of people, the other thing is you have what I'll call finish fatigue. You know, that last 10% of your Jeep, you thought you were done, and they're like, but wait, you got to take the engine out again and send it out to get rebuilt. And you're like, no, you know, it like plays with your mind, and you're like, I just want to be done with this.
Right. Well, in a way that it showed up for me earlier on, and this is probably somewhat common, is when I would go to Home Depot to get something for my project. On the way out, I would see other things in there that were for other projects that had to be done, and I would buy those things.
Right.
And the weird thing is, you feel like you're getting something done when you buy something.
Yes.
No, you're not. You're just buying something.
Yes.
It's Amazon, right?
Yeah.
We feel like,
Yes.
or in the car restoration process when I started, I just thought I was getting something done because I was buying stuff. No, what I ended up doing is I ended up buying 3 emergency brake cables.
Right.
2 of them, I have no idea what to do with them now.
Right.
And I wasn't doing anything.
But
I
as
wasn't doing anything until I got installed.
As men, there's a dopamine effect that comes from saying, I'm going to build the barn. I'm going to restore this truck. You're like, what's going on? Hey, I'm restoring this truck. I restored this Jeep. I'm building a deck. I'm putting an addition on my garage, all these things. That gives you dopamine.
Right.
Right. And you're like, it gives you self-esteem. It gives you confidence. You're like, look at Brian. He's doing all these things. How many did he finish? You know, and then you're like, there's not a lot of dopamine in the final 10% when you're pulling that engine out for the second time, taking it back, and the guy's like, it's going to be 3 months, and then then you can come and get it, then you can put it back in by yourself. There's no dopamine in that.
Right. Right.
Right? That's just grinding. And so I think part of my nature is I'm a grinder. Like I just grind. Like I said, back to being in the sugar cookie in the sandbox. Dude, I'm not quitting. It's sometimes to my own demise, right? I just won't quit. And you have that in you. You have that stubbornness, that desire to win, that desire to just keep going.
Yeah. It's been you've uncovered for me, and I'm really appreciative, a really important spiritual principle. You know, the Bible talks a number of different times about finishing the race that's set before you. Set out for the prize. I'll read you some.
Yeah.
I fought the good fight. I finished the faith. I finished the race. I've kept the faith. 1 Timothy 4:7. Or run the race in order to obtain the prize. 1 Corinthians 9:24. And I realized that in my industry, almost sounds dirty to say it, my industry, the pastoring industry, the church industry, finishing well always and only means finishing without a scandal.
How sad.
Yeah, it is sad, isn't it?
How sad.
Finishing well means you got to the end of your race.
At least there was no scandal.
That's good. That's fine. That's part of finishing the race.
Finished.
That is, but that's pretty darn passive. Like I just got to not screw up.
Yeah.
And it's made me go, all right, for as long as I am in my day job, what does that have to finish? Like
It's kind of lame.
it is lame, but it's clarifying to say, what am I finishing with now?
Yeah.
Every week I could say I'm finishing a week if I have a slate of meetings and I've got a message I'm preparing for that week. At the end of that week, I finished that week and I did those things.
Yeah.
But what am I macro finishing? Or is it just I finish endless the same week after the same week?
Yeah.
So it's really got me, is the end is in sight for me in my day job, because I said I'm probably going to go 10 more years.
Yeah.
How do I know I'm done?
You're changing lives. You're not done. You're done when your heart stops. There is no retirement. You continue the mission.
Yes, but the mission is I have a job to do, and this job at some point will be done. This job on payroll on my day job, that will be done.
Right.
What do I have to finish there? That's the
right. In that role, you will continue to change lives. That's what you are doing. And let me just say, it is a great honor for me to speak with you today. I'm extraordinarily thrilled to be here and talking with you about this. But I want to tell you, you're changing lives. That's what you guys, Dirt, all these people that are on staff, they're changing lives, man. That's what you're doing. And it's not that it's finished. You may finish, but the job is never finished, right? The mission continues. you'll hand that mantle to Kyle or Chuck or whatever, and you will have run your race well. And that's what you're doing. You're changing lives every day, including mine. And I remember when we were working on your Jeep and you said to me, I want to Venmo you some money. And I'm like, dude, you've changed my family's life, my trajectory. There's no money that you can pay me that could even come close to matching that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're too.
That's what you're doing. And so you are finishing well every day. Yeah. That's what you do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. That's what you do, man.
Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. My new book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library, are open right now on Amazon. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to dirt, that's dirt, at briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram at briantome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.